Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Manomeresco. We have another awesome guest today. We have Sofia Ilar. She's a content creator and marketing strategist. I'm super excited to learn more about her story, her expertise on all of this and social media marketing, all that. So, with that being said, Sofia, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. I'm so excited. I feel like we've been going back and forth for a while, so
yeah,
I'm glad that we can finally make this
yeah,
happen.
yeah. I'm super excited. So, I'm also glad that you were able to make this happen. And so let's start with the first question: Is how did you got started into this content creation or marketing strategist journey? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Or yeah. So how did you get started?
How did I get started in content creation?
Like pretty much like what were like those events that kind of led to you becoming a content creator and marketing
Yeah,
strategist?
great question. So, for honestly, even when I was younger, I feel like my family always called me reporterita. Like there was just this joke that I was like the reporter. I
Yeah.
was the one that was always telling people what was going on. But I used to actually have a dance studio and I used to do
Ooh.
so many different things. My family is full of entrepreneurs as well.
Oh wow.
And basically it was just the start of like creating content for people. Like I was always filming myself. I was filming
Mm-hmm.
myself doing absolutely everything. I would film when I was hosting dance classes. I would film when I was teaching. I would film the products I was using on my hair, the clothes I was wearing. And
Mm.
so I just kind of started with sharing with people. And I am an extrovert. I love being around people. I love sharing and I love connecting. And so I think that's one of the things that was my advantage for sure.
Mm.
Over the pandemic, my dance studio actually closed. I stopped doing
Oh.
my dance lessons. I was teaching outdoors for a little bit, and then I just think there was a pivot in my life where I saw that there was a lot of people saying that I was doing really well on social media. And although, for me, to be honest, I saw social media as a hobby at the beginning because when I was,
Mm.
yes, I needed it as a tool to promote my dance lessons. I needed
Yeah.
it as a tool to promote and to see what people were doing and go to events. Like that's kind of how I met a lot of people when I was younger. And it kind of hit me during the pandemic that, all we needed was promotion. Everybody needed, to be seen online, how to be discovered. And that's kind of when the flip just switched and I started
Mm.
creating content for I actually hired a coach at the beginning because I felt so lost. I felt so confused. I was like, I don't know what to do. And that transition actually ended up her and I just chatting about content and social media. And then that's how our my services and my new business came to be. Essentially from just constantly hearing what other people were saying that they needed, and then I just took
Mm.
action. So yeah, that's kind of how
All
that's
right.
how we got started. Yeah.
Do you think that was like a mindset shift that you needed for because I know for a lot of people like TikTok or social media is like it's for the younger crowd or it's like not a sustainable business at least like before maybe before 2020. So was that like kind of like a mindset shift that you had to do or how was that transition?
I think the transition, if there was a mindset shift I had to make, was that it was okay to charge more. To be
Mm.
honest with you, I was so used to working a job, and so I was used to a certain amount of income, and I was used to a certain amount of work and receiving amount of pay for it. And so the mindset shift that I had to
Mm.
make was that I was actually really valuable. Like the work and the information that I had was so rich and that
Yeah.
it wasn't worth $15 an hour. It didn't have to be, 16, 17, $18 an hour. And there was more money in the world with the amount of knowledge. You don't get paid for like the things that you do right now, but you get paid for essentially the value and the knowledge that you bring to the
Mm.
world. And so that's kind of the mindset shift that I had to make because I was stuck in a mindset of I was constantly making like $1,000, $2,000 a month. And I mean, maybe it was sustainable when I was 18 years old, but not anymore, right?
Yeah,
And
no.
so I had to get comfortable with, charging more and also investing in myself. That was also a mindset shift because in order for people to invest in me, I had to do some pretty big investments and level up my knowledge, level up my skills. And that's kind of how it came about. I also had to stop worrying about the fact that I was a little younger. Like you
Mm.
said, social media is for the younger crowd, some may say. And so I kept saying, like, I'm too young. Who's going to want to work with me? And I'm not. No, I'm not really young. I'm in my 20s. I'm in my
Yeah.
mid 20s. I'm 25.
Oh wow.
And I kept thinking like, I'm too young. Who's going to want to work with me? But the
Mm,
mindset shift that I made was, I'm young. I know exactly what you need to be doing on social media.
yeah.
I know exactly the target audiences that you're doing. Technology and media is in my age of time. So of course people are going to want to hire me.
Yeah.
And that mindset shift took a while. I'm not going to lie. It continues to be something that kind of just sits in the back of my brain, but I just have to remember that that is my superpower.
Yeah, and it kind of like sounds like how you said you have the expertise because you're doing the dance studio and like making a bunch of videos. So your knowledge accumulated for you to actually like, do this whole content creator, being a content creator and marketing strategist. So it definitely makes
Exactly.
sense. For you, what were like those obstacles that you kind of like faced, like either mindset ones, like the one that you just mentioned, or more like logistics of like actually starting a business on like it's mostly would that be like a more online type of service where and then one on one or how does that work and like what were the obstacles with that?
Yeah, I think there's so many obstacles, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
business is hard and nobody tells you that. It's all like entrepreneurship, make your own money, work from anywhere. That's not really what it is. It does mean
Mm.
work from everywhere. It means bring your laptop everywhere and do the work. And that's the thing, is nobody's willing to do the work at the beginning. And a lot of people do fail at the beginning. And they let their failures keep them stuck, and then they don't try again.
Yeah.
I had a lot of obstacles at the beginning. I faced things like legal issues,
Um,
refunds, um, arguments with clients, not arguments, just like not seeing eye to eye,
mm,
down to like website marketing, like graphic designing, like all the things that come to do with business
yeah.
that you just think it's like, oh, I started a business, and it's like financials, like money. You need money to do things, and you need to make money, so you have to promote your services. But in order to make money, you got to spend money. So there was a lot of obstacles I faced. I thank God that my biggest cheerleaders are my family. So
Yeah.
if I ever needed anything, my family was always around. They were always like, hey, you know what? You can't do this. Let's do it this way. You can't figure it
Mm,
out. I got you. And so I'm
yeah.
grateful that, I know a lot of people's sometimes their obstacles have to do with family and people around them not believing in them. I was more so the one that, like, I believed in myself, but I kept seeing these obstacles. And sometimes I think when we experience obstacles, or when I was facing them at the beginning, I just kept thinking, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Like, maybe I just should give it up. I'm trying this for 3 months. I'm facing so many like walls and
Yeah.
walls and walls. And then I was like, I'm only 3 months in,
Yeah.
and I think like it's so easy to give in at the beginning because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It's supposed to be hard,
Yeah.
because if it was easy, everybody would be
Every,
doing it, and if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. And so that's what I continue to tell myself. So now 3 years later, I do
3 years.
offer one-on-one, in person, virtual. I do group coaching. I also have speaking engagements. So there's
Wow.
multiple kind of sides to my
Yeah.
business, but it started with, yeah, just in person, just solving one problem and
Mm-hmm.
really just supporting people at a high level with content
Yeah.
creation.
Oh wow, that's really interesting because recently I saw I think it was a podcast, I'm not really sure, or just a YouTube video, and he was talking about how when you set a project or whatever you're working on, you should set it for 3 years because at least like let's say for the podcast, it's
Yeah.
you're like finding your style and how to speak, like how to form better questions, interviewing all of that stuff. The second year is like marketing and like figuring out all the social media stuff and how to grow it. And then the third year is when like things start to flow a bit better. So I'm like that makes sense because right now that's exactly like what I'm trying to figure out, like how do I make better questions? How do I interview better? How do
Mhm.
I interact better with individuals or stuff like that, and then also trying to figure out
Yeah.
the social media and stuff. But yeah, it definitely makes sense where like we shouldn't
And I
like
think and I think the biggest part is that sometimes we don't ask for feedback. So
mm,
usually people run away from feedback.
yeah.
That's something that was my struggle at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie. Feedback killed me. Like, I always took everything as like it is so serious. So anytime
Mm.
somebody would give me feedback, I would cry, I would get
Oh
emotional.
wow.
I was so upset about it. And I realized, like, feedback feedback is information, and we need information. So every
Yeah.
time somebody would tell me, or I would, at the beginning when I said I dealt with having to refund some clients, some
Mm-hmm.
legal stuff, even just like miscommunication within clients, that was
Yeah.
all feedback to integrate back and saying, okay, How can
Yeah.
I do better again? And so
Mm-hmm.
again, sometimes when you're starting a business, that's literally all you're gonna face at the beginning. It's like roadblocks, roadblocks, roadblocks. You should have done it better. You could have done it like this. You should have done it
Yeah.
like that. We can either do one thing. We could be like, okay, this is literally what I was gonna do. I was like, maybe I'm just not meant for this business stuff. I'm just gonna go be a server again. I actually ended up, I do have a social work diploma for college, so I was like, maybe I should just become a social worker.
Oh wow.
But I'm really glad that I stayed through like that grit, like just
Mm.
making sure that that feedback was going to fuel my business and fuel me and not tear me down, you know?
Mm, yeah, yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that's important. And the feedback part is really, I think that's something I should start implementing. Like, after the interview, like, oh, what did you think about the episode, or what can I improve on, or even like the people who actually listen to them. That's a really good idea. Were there any other obstacles mm, or events that kind of like shifted the trajectory of your business, or like it kind of like triggered it to be more successful than you thought it could have?
What, so your question is what kind of helped my business evolve
Yeah.
and kind of what kept moving the business
Mm-hmm.
further?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it was believing in myself. I think people
Mm,
can only believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. And
yeah.
so if I kept showing up as like, I didn't know what I was doing, I'm unfulfilled, I hate this place, I don't want to do this, I don't know what I'm doing half of the time. There's a difference between being organic and really sharing, like, hey, you know what, I'm struggling, but also
Mm-hmm.
you have to, I realized like you have to show up for your business. You have to show up for yourself excited. If you're not,
Mm,
how are you going to expect other people to buy from you and say, hey, this is the person I want to work with? This is the
yeah.
place I want to go to visit. This is the location I want to have. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was that shift is if you're not excited about your own business, of course there's going to be tough days. Of course I want to wake up and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, okay, you know what? I faced some challenges, but you have to be excited about it. And I think that shifted my business. I started to change the way I was looking at things and the things I was looking at began to change. And
Okay.
that's the thing is you keep if I kept seeing like, okay, I don't love this. I don't love the certain clients I have. Or maybe I
Mm,
was charging too little, so I kept being burnt out. Or
okay.
yeah, I was actually that's what's happening. I was charging really little. I was taking on so many clients and I was so burnt out. And so
Uh-huh.
while I was thinking nobody's gonna pay me more and I'm gonna keep being burnt out and I don't enjoy what I'm doing, I just said, you know what? Let me raise my prices. Raising my prices obviously came with me purchasing higher level equipment so I could serve my clients better. But it was just about navigating those and saying,
Yeah.
well, okay, instead of me taking on 10 clients, I'm going to take on three and I can serve them
Mm,
better. And it started
okay.
making me feel better. I got more excited about what I was doing. I had more
Yeah.
time. I didn't have to be like running around. So I was really looking at quality over quantity at a certain
Mm,
point, and that did grow my business. Because I felt like my clients had more of that one-on-one time. They love being able to kind of have that exclusivity as well,
yeah.
where it's just us and you don't have to worry about constantly, not fighting for my attention. But I feel like sometimes when you work with people, you kind of have to fight for their attention. You're like, oh my gosh, like they don't have time for me. And so that's something that I really had to look at and say, um, yeah, some things has to shift because I can't keep continuing to be burnt out.
Yeah.
I'm not operating as the best version of myself, and we go through those, right? Sometimes we think it's always going to be like good, la di da di da, and we're not going to have situations happen, but the realisticness of business, it is a roller coaster, and
Yeah.
not that it has like highs and lows all the time. That just sometimes you go high and you experience a little bit of here, and then you go here, and then you go back here, and then you stay here for a while, then you go back here because our economy's changing, businesses are changing. Like it's not just about me. Like the people that are buying or working with me also have a life and a business as well. And so I made sure I was focusing on the things that I could control, the
Yeah.
things that I could literally take control of myself, and anything else I left it to God and just social media.
And so, it sounds like you were very like intentional and like also very aware of like how energy is very contagious. So were you like watching like videos or reading books that helped you with this mindset? Because not everybody has that, or has that like intention is important, or energy, or how you portray yourself to others. So for you, did you have any like resources that helped you with that?
Honestly, this is gonna sound really cliche, and some people may or may not agree with this, but my biggest resource was God.
Mm,
I can't say anything else, but
yeah.
God was my strategist. God is my CEO, and God is the one that I look to say, "Hey, what do you like? Am I like this is happening? Like I need some help."
Yeah.
And the biggest reason why I say that is because if you stand for nothing, you're gonna fall for anything. And so if you don't have a foundation of where you stand, I knew that I want my platform and my business to glorify the Lord. And so if it is, and and I'm looking to him for everything, that's where I'm going to find my understanding. That's where I'm going to find my support. That's where I can go to when things are tough. And that's the thing is people ask me, what books do you read? Who's your mentor? What podcast do you listen to? And I'm like, do you have a relationship with God? Like, because at the end of the day, for me, this isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And I know this platform isn't just, for Christians, but
Yeah.
you have a Christian on your podcast. For me, that's the most important thing because I find that my business grew when I gave it to God. And right now I'm at a point where I have to surrender it all to him and say, God, I need you to help me and give me the strategies. Because here's the thing, when you don't believe in anything and when you don't believe in God, to be honest, and you kind of look and see what everybody else is doing, it's so easy to compare yourself and it's so
Yeah.
easy to get lost in what everybody else is doing. You're going to look and somebody's doing this, you're going to look and somebody's doing that. But when you know who created you and when you know the value that you have and when you know essentially the source of what you're like of everything that you do, you produce from that and you say, you know what, I'm going to stay the course because that is shiny, but what does God have for me? And so yeah, prayer, I'm surrounded by an amazing community of great people and Christian mentors that support me along the way. Do I read books? Yes, but to be honest, a lot of books have a biblical foundation anyways. They just don't call
Okay.
it, they just don't put a verse to it, but they'll say all these things, but it does come from the Bible. Someone could challenge me on that, but I do I do have a fair share of books. I'm not gonna lie, they do stand there. One of my favorite books that I kind of we were talking about time and where we spend our time and energy. It's
Yeah.
called At Your Best by
At your
Carrie
best.
Newhoff,
Okay.
and it's a faith-based book and it really teaches you how to manage your time and when you're at your best, when you're at your like red zone, green zone, and yellow zone. So that book has really helped me define like, hey, like, those times where you're working and you're just like cloudy and your brain's just tired and exhausted. I'm like, maybe it's not the time for me to be like editing and or sending emails. Maybe this time is for me to just like rest. But then
Okay.
there's like my green zone, which is like right in the morning, 8 a.m. I'm still in my pajamas, doesn't matter. I can come to my computer and get my best work done. So
All right.
as like those books have really helped me because sometimes it's just finding out. It's not about like seeing, yes, it's about seeing other people and being able to say, okay, what do you do? But sometimes it's just you asking yourself, like, what do you like? Like, when do you like to
Yeah.
work? Like, I work best in my pajamas and like, I don't know, a robe than I do after I shower and put makeup on. So it's like sometimes it doesn't look like what the world is doing and you just gotta soak in. Mentors, I think you asked mentors podcasts or is there any videos that I watch? One thing that's really important for me and why I'm really sensitive to what I look at, what I listen to, is because you have to look at what people do, not what they say, right? So easy to like read a book and listen to a podcast and listen to a video and say, okay, this person's saying all these fancy things. She's telling me to have a to-do list. She's telling me to wake up at 5 a.m. She's telling me to go to the gym. And then you wonder like, but do you do that? Like, what are your fruits look like? So that's where sometimes I'm like, yeah, I can listen to all these podcasts and I can listen to all these things, but ultimately what does your walk look like? And so that's
Yeah.
something I'm really sensitive to about like what's pouring into me and being really intentional with what I look at. um but yeah, most of all, it's my faith. Sorry, that was long. I could have
No,
just ended
no,
it there.
that's beautiful. There's 2 points that I want to make. There's like the one where like, at least like for me, I'm not religious, but I definitely do believe like on the universe and God. Like it's interchangeable for me, but that definitely has helped me be more like how you said, have that more like better foundation, and definitely helps me like when I'm like lost or whatever. Is like I could ask the universe like help me with this or can you guide me with this and all that. So I could definitely see that. And there's this I don't know if you heard of Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist, I believe, and I watched like a bit of the clip, but he was talking about how he started doing a lot of prayer in the mornings. And even though he's not a religious person, I believe, he started implementing that, and he still doesn't understand it like scientifically. He just doesn't understand it. But he says like that's the thing, like you just have to like surrender type of thing. So, and that's like
Yeah.
the beautiful thing, because he started seeing a lot of changes. And I think maybe it's not for everybody, like you said, but yeah, definitely it's maybe something to try, or people like start exploring. And then and the other point was like exploring more with yourself, like learning more about yourself. That's something not a lot of people do. So definitely like learning more about you, so you can know what your foundation is. And then there's this book I read, Discover Your Destiny. I don't know if you heard it, by Robin Sharman. And towards the end, I think he talks about like how you have to create, like, as much as you get so much information from podcasts, books, whatever, wherever you get your info, you have to create your own philosophy in life. Like you gotta,
Yeah.
like, you take in whatever you want, but then like you, at the end of the day, it's you create your own philosophy. I think I
Yeah.
already made 3 points in there, but there's one more I want to make. There's I forgot what oh, for me, that's something, another thing I struggle with is like I get a lot of information and I just want to follow that through. Like right now, I don't know if you heard of Dr. Mindy Pels. She's into like fasting and like using your menstrual cycle to using your menstrual cycle to be more productive, because there's like different
Yeah.
phases and whatnot. So I'm like, that's super interesting. And then with the fasting part, I wanted to try it, but there's like so much information that I feel like I have to learn,
Yeah.
or like significant foundational stuff. So I need to get more into it. And like sometimes I just want to take it in and like do it like as soon as possible. But it's like, no, you got to do the research and like what's the right way to do so. But yeah, those are the points I want to make. And like what you said about God and all of that, it's like definitely very beautiful, and it's
Yeah.
definitely it helps with the foundation.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like I mentioned, if you don't stand for anything, you're gonna fall for anything. So
Yeah.
even if you take information about, you wanting to fast and you want to learn how to match your menstrual cycle with this, it's like, or you listen to somebody tell you to get up at 5 a.m. every day and, go to the gym because that's the most productive thing you can do in the morning. Or somebody tells you like, no, you have to stay up late and burn the midnight oil. Like you're always
Yeah.
going to have constant opinions. So this is where I'm like, I go to God because to be honest, the world is going to tell me what the world is going to tell me. There is everybody and anybody's opinion. Your grandma
Yep.
has an opinion, your mom has an opinion, and people you don't even know will have an opinion and an impact on your life, and you get to decide what you do with that. So yeah, we're consumers, right?
Yeah.
We're consumers. We take, but you also have to be intentional where the source is coming from, the information, because
Yeah.
then you decide like, is this for me? Does it serve me or does this not serve me? And you
Yeah.
get to make that decision of like, okay, somebody's telling me this, like, it doesn't really resonate with me. That happens to
Yeah.
me a lot of the time. I'm like, I love, I love the information coming in, but it doesn't resonate with me. And it's also not where I am in my life. So I also think like that's a really great, you have to ask yourself, like, where are you in your life? Are you
Yeah.
listening to the people that have what you want? And also, where's the source of the information coming from? For me, I'm very, like I said, I'm very intentional where I take
Yeah.
information from my mentors, what I listen to, because it's all attached to my business. And I always say, one of my mentors taught me this, and they said, connected to everything, attached to nothing. And because I'm connected, it's also really important that you're mindful of that.
Yeah.
But the foundation of your life, or my life, sorry, I should say, has to be built on God. So unfortunately, sometimes there are things I say no to right now. Like, for example, maybe 6 months ago, it wasn't the time for me to be on your podcast. And I have to pray about these things. Like, Lord, when do you want me to speak on this platform? How do you want me to show up? Is there certain clients I got to say no to? Is there certain
Yeah.
I can't go anymore? And that, I think it's part of your process, and it's part of a pruning process as a business owner and as a person. And it can be really hard because along the way, a lot of people and a lot of things may not align anymore.
Yeah.
And there's kind of that cancel culture vibe that people will no longer want to like talk to you or work with you because you're moving a certain way. And I'm like, you know what? It's like, and people say this a lot, on Instagram and stuff, and they say rejection is God's protection. And I truly believe that. Anytime that I'm either rejected, somebody says no to me, I've gotten no so many times. I've ended business partnerships so many times. And I always say, like, this is protection. But again, it's all because my foundation really comes
Yeah.
from focusing on what God wants for me. And if it's not what he wants for me, then I just got to have peace with it.
Yeah, and it goes back to like also surrendering to like what the result is, you could say, because sometimes people will take it personal. So like having that foundation, it allows you to set your boundaries, knowing that it's okay, and not being attached to all the what ifs that could have happened if that person or situation would have been a yes. So yeah, definitely um something to take in. Another question I have is for like skill wise, how what were the skills that you had to learn, either like for you personally, like those resources, like I mean we talk about God in your case, but for like logistics in your business, like what skills did you have to learn in the beginning, or you will recommend people who want to start their business like to start learning as soon as possible?
I would say intentionality and discipline. You
Okay.
have to be a person of your word. Like, I know this was tough for me at the beginning with business. Like, I would say, oh, yeah, I'm going to edit that video and I wasn't editing it. Or I would say, like, I'm going to make sure I do this at this time and I wasn't doing it. Or I was saying my deadline was Friday and I would finish it Friday morning. Like,
Okay.
you have to be a person of your word, and it's something I'm constantly working on. Like personally, on my personal life, it's something I struggle with because sometimes there's things that I don't want to do, or there's people, there's like, life is like on a personal level, I am struggling on it, and I'll be real honest with you. On a business level, I make sure, like, if I'm going to say something, I got to do it. This is integrity. It's part of discipline. It's
Okay.
part of building confidence. That's a huge skill. I do have a calendar. I have like 3 calendars. I have one right here. I have a paper one. I have my phone.
Oh wow.
Everything's in my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. I don't do it if it's not in my calendar, which gets me into the habit of putting it in my calendar
Yeah.
as a part of being intentional. I think another great skill that I've built is listening. Because if you're not listening to people and you're not able to have that compassionate heart of what people are looking for, that's actually where your best business ideas come from. Sometimes it's from other people's complaining, to be honest. Somebody's complaining out there that they don't have the time to create content. Somebody's complaining about the fact that their business gets seen on Instagram, but they don't have time to create content because their business is busy. And or
Yeah.
somebody out there is saying, like, or praying to God and saying, Lord, I need you to send me a mentor or somebody that can help me strategize my business. And so from listening to that, I'm
Yeah.
able to um now create something from it,
Yeah.
or my services. But if I'm constantly doing and speaking and putting,
Yeah.
if I was interrupting people, I would really never get to that place where I'm listening and I'm taking
Yeah.
in. Um, and that goes with like hand in hand. So listening and asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Honestly, learning how to ask the right questions. Because I could ask you like, "Hey, how are you?" Or I could ask you like, "What was like the biggest highlight of your day today?" Because if I ask you how are you, you're gonna be like, "I'm good."
Yeah.
What the highlight of your day was, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I met this person, I did this podcast, this is what happened. And so asking the right question to a business owner, instead of maybe being like, what's the biggest lesson you learned in your life? Like, what does your morning look like? Tell me what you do. Tell me 3 things you do in a day. Versus like,
Okay.
because yeah, the biggest lesson is great, but like, I want to know what you do. Like, tell me how you made
Yeah.
$10 million. Tell me how you make $100 million. Tell me how you have a successful business. Tell me your 3 like most important things you do in a day, and you will learn. Like again, you can duplicate what somebody does based on their actions, because talk is cheap. But if somebody's telling me and I can see them doing it, I can
Yeah.
duplicate that. So asking the right questions, being a great listener, and really having discipline. And I see that, falling over every area of my life, not just business, but
Yeah.
personal. Right now I'm on a fitness journey, and I've been sharing that. And one of the biggest reasons why I constantly come on and off of it is because of discipline, right? I can have great discipline in my business. Imagine if I put that same
Yeah.
energy back into my
Into
fitness, and now
fitness.
I am. And so I noticed that the discipline that I have in my personal fitness journey, it's leaking back into that like that discipline that I have in my business, and it's like amplifying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe that those are things that will amplify you, but then on the other side is, there are things that you got to let go of.
Yes.
Like there's that skill of letting go, which I'm not good at. You. Letting go is hard for me. I'm a person who loves being in control. I love, and so it goes hand in hand with like me having so much faith, but also being like, God, I also want to take control, and letting go of things that don't serve us. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm learning right now, I'm in a really transition season, and I say people
Okay.
come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And so just being okay with the fact that learning the skill of letting go, and letting go with grace, and
Yeah.
forgiving with grace. And because ultimately, you know, I mean, you show your face on the podcast and on social. We're people that we have to be a people's person. And so if
Yeah.
something's going on in our personal life, you can tell right here. And so learning how to like balance that, like,
Yeah.
you know, just, I think letting go and forgiveness allow us to release with grace. And when I have that grace, I can show up better in my business. But if I'm like,
Okay.
if I have this like bitterness, which I have, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bitter. Sometimes I'm a bitter, and sometimes, you know, the like I need a little more grace.
Yeah.
But I do think that that allows us to show up better in our business when it can be like, you know what, like I release, things come and go. That is how
Mm-hmm.
life works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a mouthful. So yeah, to summarize that, like ask the right questions, be a great listener, build that discipline,
Yeah.
build confidence, and then just learn how to let go of things that no longer serve you.
Interesting. There's this thing I heard about discipline where you kind of have to do, like, discipline is kind of like you do it with, I think it's like like how you think about discipline, because there's this episode I watch where like it's discipline with enthusiasm. So if you have enthusiasm, you're gonna be disciplined, but you need discipline on the things that you don't really, you could say, like, or don't enjoy as much, because if you're enthusiastic about the things that you like you're just gonna do it no matter what. Like you're enthusiastic about it, and then discipline is more like the things that you don't like, and it's like you gotta be consistent with it no matter what. And then the other thing I want to mention was like there's, I don't know if you heard about Diego Dreyfus, something like that. He's like a Mexican. I think he's Mexican. I'm not really sure. Um, but
No, I haven't.
he there's this episode I listened from him where he talks about emotions and how our emotions, we can't control our emotions, but they're more of a like a signal of like a signal of like how of what's kind of like triggering you, and you being conscious about that um, allows you to know how you're gonna react to the situation, because it's the emotion, no matter what is gonna come up. You just have to know how you're gonna react. And I thought that was interesting, on like how that emotions are like a warning signal. Like, okay,
Yeah, well, I was studying, so two things on what you said.
yeah,
Discipline is actually a trigger word for some people, because discipline
yeah,
um, was used for some people to get beat, you know, when they were
mm,
younger. And
yeah,
so discipline, when because I studied social work, I think my brain kind of goes into like the mental health side sometimes, and
yeah,
it's like, I understand why the word discipline, and why the actual action of discipline is so hard for some people,
mm-hmm,
because it's always seen and has a negative connotation around it, or has a negative like
yeah,
reinforcement around it, that like I'm gonna have to do something, right?
mm-hmm,
I think how, like you said, like discipline with enthusiasm. I think also just shifting our mindset to I get to do this, right? Like
yeah,
a lot of people don't have legs right now, or can't wake up in the morning, or can't move and don't have an able body. I get to go to the gym and work out. It's not a
mm-hmm,
matter of I have to, like,
yeah,
yes, but I get to do that. And so I think that that really allows you to have that gratitude mindset
mm-hmm,
around discipline.
yeah,
And the second thing that you said about our emotions, I was listening to this podcast, but also how my brain envisions things is always through pictures.
okay,
So, like you said, emotions and feelings are information. I think of
mm-hmm,
having like a filing cabinet in my brain, like a big room of files, like almost like a library, like those old school libraries.
mm,
All my emotions and all my feelings, I get to say, okay, this does serve me. Okay, this is information.
mm-hmm,
I'm going to store it in here. Next time it happens, I know when this emotion comes up, that's
mm-hmm,
what it is. And so I have, it's almost like keeping a track record of like a journal. And
yeah,
that's how my brain works. I'm like, oh, I've been here before. This
mm-hmm,
triggers me. This affects me.
yeah,
Now I'm not going through it in a place of ignorance. Now I'm
mm-hmm,
aware that I feel this way when this emotion
yep,
comes, when this happens. So now I can go back to my little brain filing cabinet and be like, oh, this happened these last times. What did I do when these emotions came up? And that's how,
mm-hmm, yeah,
I mean, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not going to lie, because sometimes I still get triggered and I got like my
yeah,
arms like, but sometimes I am able to be like, wait, I recognize this before. I feel like I close my eyes and I almost go through that little filing cabinet in my brain. And I'm like, okay, I have feedback that I overcame this
Yeah.
before, overcome the business obstacle. So, okay, another issue came in, no problem. Let me go to that part of me that was so strong and resilient and understanding. And how did I respond? What did I do? Was I sitting, or was I more like, okay, you know what? Surrender, have faith. And that's what repetition causes. So
Yeah.
discipline builds repetition. And that repetition is gonna build the confidence of knowing I've been here before.
Yeah.
I know what I gotta do now. Right.
Yeah.
So
It forms that habit. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely important. Before I want to ask a few questions about like your expertise on social media, but before
yeah.
we get into that, I want to go into the finance section. I know there's a post that you have pinned in your Instagram, I believe it is, where you made your first year you made $100,000, but
Yeah.
then like deducting all the taxes and all the investment that you did on like coaching and all of that, you ended up making like 30,000, I believe, in profit. So how how was that like when you saw the numbers, like how was that, how was your reaction, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Great question. So and again, when I mentioned this at the very beginning of the podcast, when you start a business, people are going to think you're going to make so much money.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Money's going to come and just hit you, and I'm just going to spend it because that's what I got to do. So that's exactly what I did. Honestly, I made so much money. I had a great business model. I did the right things. I was having the right clients. I was burnt out like crazy, but I was also I wasn't smart with my money. And when I was a little bit younger. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but you see money come and you get really excited and it
Yeah.
excites you. But that's where, I mean, for me, I right now I'm praying that God reveals to me stewardship and the understanding of money. When you understand how to steward your money, and I think at that point in that season in my life, it was so much about making the money that I wasn't focused on keeping the money. Different things.
Yeah.
I was so discouraged when I did my financials, and I was like, oh my gosh, I made so much money. I did everything I wanted to do, by the way. I was like, yeah, I'm eating out. And that came to me gaining so much weight. I was splurging on everything that I wanted to get because I was making money. I was working hard,
Yeah.
but I knew that this was a part of my stewardship. And so now this year, kind of looking into it, I'm like, this money isn't really mine. It is a vessel to do multiple things. So that's why, like last year, I wasn't really investing in anything. I mean, I was paying for all these things. I paid so much money in medication last year of like antibiotics,
Oh wow.
vitamins. It was because my health was crumbling. I paid a lot of money in things that, probably were just fulfilling me at the moment. And
Yeah.
then also, I mean, tax reductions, like all those things that I put in the post, like those are real. Those are real. And the first year of my business, I invested in everything. You could have sold me whatever. You could have sold me $1,000 glass of water just because
Oh
you could
wow.
have this out the line and it had all the benefits. Like I would have done it. It was so but that's where you got to have wisdom. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was a hard year last year. I again made the money, I did the things, I got to do I had a lot of incredible opportunities, but it came with a cost and it came with a price. And now it's like when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately comes down to um like being wise. There's a parable in the Bible uh of the coins, and I won't go into it, but it's really about stewarding and how do you steward your money and how can you come back and be a vessel where money is your money is landing on good soil and you're able to produce fruit with that, right? So I think that's definitely something that I always tell people is like a lot of my clients make when I have a coaching program, one of them, and I helped my client go from $3,000 to $15,000 to $24,000 months.
Oh wow.
Now that was a great jump, but you can make all the money, but you don't know what to do with it. And that's when tithing comes in, saving for your future, having a backup financial plan. I mean, saving up for taxes. Like it's crazy how many things we don't know. And I'm grateful that I do have my sister's our bookkeeper. So she supports me with a lot of those things. But at the end of the day, like it is about wisdom. It is so much about wisdom. And was a hard year. Like to see those numbers, it was like, okay, like I definitely lived pretty lavish, but there was no money to my name. And I mean, making six figures is great, but if you're not keeping six figures, then it literally doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, yeah. How is that? I probably should have asked that before I asked that question, but how is your relationship with money before, and then now that now that you had that experience, like how has it evolved, and what are you doing to? What are like some three, four advices that you could give on money that you're doing now, where it's like it really has helped your business and your personal life because it's not just business.
Yeah. I feel like my relationship with money was equivalent to my relationship with men. I think it's like a really like somebody this woman Vanessa, she has a company called Mintworthy, and she teaches women how to manage their finances. And she said, what's your relationship, like your relationship with money? Tell me about your relationship with the men in your life
Mm.
or the women in your life. And that's literally what it was. It was messy, it was toxic. Oh my gosh, like when I thought about that, I was like, my relationship with money for the longest time was so much of scarcity. Like when you come, like we moved from Colombia to here, and all I saw my parents fighting about was money. And so when
Yeah.
I grew up, all I thought about was money and making money and having more and doing more. And so I had it all. And so I
Mm-hmm.
spent it because it was about, okay, well, great. Like my parents were always fighting about money and not being able to have all these things. Well, now I have them. So now I spend them. So yeah, I always said like my relationship with money was so equal to the relationship with the men in my life. Like
Yeah.
I would spend lots of money. I would spend lots of time doing so many things that, weren't serving me. It wasn't what God had for me. Um, it was toxic. It came and it went. Like,
Okay. What?
so it was definitely not good. Now where my mind is again, like I said, money is a form of stewardship. If God is blessing me with clients, if I'm being blessed with
Yeah.
people, and whenever I think of me getting a new client, I think of like, wow, like they steward their finances and poured into me and
Yeah.
trust me with their money. They trust me with their money. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they're doing for me to help them and support them. So I see it that way. I
Yeah.
see. I mean, it's for me right now. It's really important for me to be wise with every money that comes in and out, not from a scarcity perspective, but because I also just invested in a property. And so I'm making
Okay.
new investments in my life that, I mean, I'm growing up. I'm gonna move out from my house one day and I'm gonna have nothing. And so I have to be smart and intentional with everything
Mm-hmm.
that I do. Yesterday I was saying like, for $78 I could have gotten an appetizer or a meal, but instead I $78 maybe my breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Monday to Wednesday. And it's not because I don't have the money. I can go out and eat all 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
but it's smart for my health, for my finances, and for the life that I want to create. And so
Oh yeah.
um, right now I'm making sure that all my thoughts, my beliefs, and the actions that I'm doing align with the purpose that God has for me. And although I may not know it all,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the full picture of where I'm going. I just know that, okay, well, if let me just give an example. Somebody who has $1 million and has a house and has a kids and has all the things, they have successful businesses. They're at the position where they could splurge and spend. So if I'm looking at them, I'm like, okay, they might not be worried about the money because they got all the assets and all the things. But to get there, they had to have some point of surrender and discipline. And that's where I'm at, because there is like success requires sacrifice. And so yeah, I like the property stuff, the investing. It all comes like I have so much peace with it because I'm like, you know what? Um, God does trust me with his people and with businesses and with clients. And so I know that the money that I receive, I have to be smart with what I do with it. Savings,
Mm-hmm.
emergency funds,
Yeah.
pouring back into people, giving, being generous.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, yeah, here and there I get to spoil myself and buy myself cute clothes and do the things, but not as much as I was doing before. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, I think that's something I also had to learn too. I did a money coach session with Gabby, one of the girls I interviewed, and one of the things she told me was to have some value categories where for savings. So it's for
Nice.
me, I have my like going out savings, my emergency fund, taxes, investments. There's like education because I love like buying courses, and that's something, another thing I gotta be intentional about, because you could send me a course and I will buy it for you if I have the money, like I so I really gotta be intentional with that. And
Yeah.
then I think there's a few others that I created recently, but yeah, it's definitely like, and then that limits, like you could say limits me in a way, but not in a negative way, or like, okay, I could spend this much because I also have certain goals that I want to meet. So I
Exactly.
So it's like knowing what your goals are. It really helps out.
You have to know where you want to go in order to
Yeah.
like, for me, if I'm trying to lose weight right now, do you really think it's smart for me to be going out and eating every single day? Absolutely
No.
not. Also, if I have a payment that I have to make or pre-construction that needs to be built, do you think I have any business doing unintelligent things with my money?
No.
No. And because I know that, I want to be able to invest more in my business with equipment, with
Mm-hmm.
staffing. Like, of course, there's things that just like, so I love that you said like a value. I actually bought these envelopes. It's so funny that they're sitting here still unopened. Okay, unopened, that I was gonna fill with each category of the things that I wanted to spend my money on. And it's not from a scarcity perspective. I think it's more from, this is the freedom that I have with money. But like I
Yeah.
said, stewardship. So how can I be intentional with what I spend?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, what you put your money into is also things that you value and you're connected to. So
Yeah.
that's really important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think another thing I'll add to that is that something I've learned is that money is energy. So it goes back with intentionality, because if your intention is in a scarcity mindset, then that's what's gonna come to you. And then yeah, what you're receiving. And then if you have an abundance mindset, then you're gonna attract more money. Whether you're gonna give it and you're gonna spend it, or you're gonna invest it on something that you value, but it's gonna come back because your intention with it was genuine. So yeah, I think that's definitely, and that's an important thing, and something that because I made that mindset, or more intentional actions with that, or like more intentional thoughts. This month I actually made quite a good amount of money on the job that I'm in, because I it's based on tips. So because of the energy that I had in there, I made good
Yeah.
money. So I could definitely see how money is energy, and the more abundance mindset, definitely you attract more.
Yeah, and I think you need to show up as the person of the service you're going to receive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect, don't wait until you get paid to act paid. Like, I think
Yeah.
people like, I experienced this before where I'll be like chatting with somebody in the DMs, or I want to work with them, and it's like, um, they don't show up until the money's there, and then it's like, great, like
Mm-hmm.
active service all the time. That's why I post so much valuable content.
Yeah.
I'm okay with posting a lot of free content because this is the same level of value, if not more, I'm going to give my clients when they pay. And
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like you did say, like money is energy, but it's also something that it's going to continue to flow. So when a lot of
Yeah.
people say, yeah, services are expensive, everything is expensive. Well, I mean, we do pay Netflix, we do pay subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
we pay all these different things that we're so easily able to
Yeah.
get to. But what about the things that are actually serving us? Or what about
Mm-hmm.
the things we actually desire? Last month, I was paying my personal trainer, and I was saying like, oh my gosh, like this is expensive. And then I also looked at my financials of like how much money I spent on food. And I was like, oh my gosh, like not a match. Like triple how much I was spending on food versus how much my personal trainer was. And I was like, what are the things that I
Mm-hmm.
value? So even when people are investing in my service, or I'm investing in a coaching service, or they're investing in working with me monthly, or for intensives, or the VIP content day,
Mm-hmm.
it is expensive. I'm not gonna lie. I have a 4-figure investment and it's about to double.
Oh wow.
And but I'm so open with my prices because what I give to people is time freedom. What I give to people is
Mm-hmm.
content for the rest of the month, so that the rest of the month they can focus on their business. They can not be stressed about social media. They can be working in the areas that bring them money alongside the social media that we create together. And so when they're investing in me, I know that this is, like this is going to produce fruit in a different area of their life. Some
Mm-hmm.
people come and help you with coaching and you see physical results. Some people help you with finances and you, or coaching or therapy, and you receive mental results.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different areas that you're going to reap the rewards when you pay. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes me paying you doesn't mean that I'm going to receive the same money back. It may look like in a different form, but it's still things that money can't buy, because
Mm-hmm.
the amount of freedom, like if, for example, my client was able to focus and go on her first vacation with her family for 2 weeks because her social media was taken care of, and she was able to
Oh
make
wow.
$20,000 that month. So it was like, it's not even so much about the money for me. I was like, hey, the money was great, but girl, you got a vacation, you got freedom, you got time, you got to relax, and that's a lot of things a lot of people don't get to do. So
Yeah.
I think that that's like super, super impactful to note, and define where your money's going, where your energy is going, and then also
Yeah.
what you're receiving on the other side. Is it a match to the things that you want? Is the energy that you're receiving back from the things that you're paying and sowing into producing some sort of fruit. If it's not, then you should stop paying into that. Because if you're paying somebody and you're not receiving some sort of value in
Yeah.
exchange, it's the wrong
Or
thing.
yeah, it's the wrong thing. Yeah, for sure. And it goes back to being in alignment, like thoughts,
In
feelings,
alignment with
and
that.
actions. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
for sure. Um, I think that's a good way to end the finance section. I think that was it goes a lot with intentionality, and yeah. So let's go into the skills and your expertise on content creation and like being a marketing strategist. I do have like exact questions that I do want to ask. Um, so my first question is for people who are struggling with creating content. At least like maybe it's a bit for me, where like I'm not really a social media person. Like I could forget to be in social media for days. Like I don't have an addiction to social media. So because of that, I forget to post my content. So is there any advice that like for people who have a similar situations to mine, or is it like a mindset shift that we got to do? Or do we just got to schedule it? Like what is it that we have to do to be more consistent with posting on social media?
I think you just labeled being consistent with social media as an addiction. So I think,
Okay.
like you mentioned, like I have an addiction to social media, so I'm not on it. Social media doesn't mean you have an addiction,
Right.
and on social media doesn't mean you have an addiction. So I think people really attach so many labels to social media, and it's like it's toxic, it consumes me, it's an addiction, it's this and that and that. So you're creating that belief for yourself. To be honest, I don't mean to sound like I come across really strong, but
Yeah.
when a lot of people tell me, social media is just so toxic, I'm like, what are you watching that is toxic? Like, what are you consuming that you feel is toxic?
Mm-hmm.
My page is all food and nails right now, and wash cabinetry. Okay, so what are you consuming that you're allowing that to consume you so much?
Okay.
Some people say like, yeah, well, it's addicting. It just makes me addicted, and so I just refuse to go on it. Period. Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that to yourself? Like, so what is something that you can set instead of feeling that addiction? Could
Mm-hmm.
you schedule it so you're not on it, or
All
could
right.
you set some moments in your day to say or week that this is a part of your business? Because
Mm-hmm.
while admin is important, emails are important,
Yeah.
tax is important, let's look into like a brick and mortar business. Opening doors, cleaning is important. Going through stock and merchandise is important. Social media needs to be a part of your daily method of
Mm-hmm.
operations. It's part of your
Yeah.
DMO. If you're not doing it, if you're not using it, and it's a part, and it's a vessel, and it's a unit, and it's a platform that makes you money, you should be on it,
Yeah.
and you get to decide. You're probably not counting stock items and saying like, oh my god, this is so toxic, like this is consuming me. No, because it brings you money. You need to know the
Okay.
amount of stock you have in your items, the amount of stuff that's going in your store, the amount of things that are coming in and out. That. And so you make
Mm-hmm.
that you're on the machine and whatever you got to do to scan and do all the things. It's the same thing with social media.
All
um,
right.
for me, because this is the business that I have, I live, eat, and breathe social media. I also set times for myself. There's things that I don't post. There's things that I do post. There's content that I know is going to be valuable to others, and so I share it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have time where I'm just embracing and experiencing the moment that I have,
Okay.
because I don't relate being on social media to an addiction. I also don't
Mm-hmm.
relate it being consuming. I relate it to
Mm-hmm.
providing opportunities and sharing information. And
Ooh.
that's the same.
All right.
People have this thing about selling. Like selling is so cringy. Selling is so hard. To me, sharing is, selling, I don't even call it selling. I say I'm advising somebody. I'm also sharing information,
Mm-hmm.
because I said it in a previous video. It's so easy for us to talk about our Amazon items, but not our business, because we're
Mm.
being salesy. Well, you just
Yeah.
sold somebody else's business and you out here making all these people some money. So I think
Yeah.
it's really good that reframing your thought around the things that you're doing, and the things that you're doing are going to start changing for you. You're going to start looking
Yeah.
at like, wow, I've posted 3 times instead of one today.
Mm-hmm.
I posted every single day on my story this week, and I have never done that. And look at all the feedback that I got. Look at this information that I got. So I really think it's a matter of like, how are you allowing yourself to view things, and then do you expect them to change? If you're viewing something as toxic, well, the toxicity is going to continue to come up, because you either
Yeah.
control things or you let them control you.
Yeah.
And so you want to start making money, and you want to start getting the right people on your page, then you need to also have the right attitude behind it. You can't keep complaining and saying social media doesn't money, but you're really not doing anything. You can't keep saying,
Mm.
well, So I haven't found any of my clients on social media, but you're not showing up as what you want your ideal client to be.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say build a schedule for yourself, just like you would with this podcast, just
Yeah.
like you would with anything that you do, and say, I'm going to give myself an hour. And an hour at the beginning may not be enough time for you. So you get to understand what timing looks like. In an hour, I can create my content for a month. For my
Okay.
clients, I can do it in 5 hours. Well, we do a lot more in 5 hours than I do for myself in 1 hour. But you get to ask yourself, like, what can I put into this hour? How important is it for me? What are the things that I value, and how can I
Okay.
showcase this? Or maybe it's throughout the week, or throughout the day, where you're like, okay, I know I'm going to be on a call. So, for example, I'm on, like, I could show up on stories and be like, just finished this podcast. Who's interested in having me as a podcast on my on their episode? And then stay tuned for my podcast that's going to be launching sometime soon. I don't know when, because the obstacles are real. But I, again, promote myself. Right? I can
All
talk
right.
about what I'm doing. I can showcase my breakfast, showcase my intentionality, showcase my calendar. I just posted a reel this morning. It's like, I'm doing what I need to be doing as my checklist for my business. Next, I was on this podcast. I went to the gym in the morning. After that, I'm going to be doing emails, and then I'm going to be going to a football game. Like,
Ooh, okay.
because I was able to be intentional and do the things that maybe at the beginning were hard, but now it's just a part of, like, it's been engraved. So eventually it's going to be just another thing for habit for you. You're going to know,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to be filming this 1 second on my tripod, and we're doing it. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that definitely makes sense because I don't see social media as toxic for sure. Like I don't have any toxic like it's mostly like business tips, mindset stuff. So yeah, it was definitely that shift of it being intentional or I forgot what you said, but it was
Yeah.
providing value with the information that you're putting out, with the content that you're putting out. So I think that kind of leads to my other question because at least for me, I also have a lot of ideas on. I think even now I have like an idea or like kind of like a series I want to do, but executing the content, like I don't know how to. How would you like? I don't know how to record it for it to come out as the way that I would want it to, or I guess
Yeah.
like my question would be like for those who have those ideas out like in their head, what advice would you give them in order to like make that into an actual like video? Is there any like tips?
I do a little visual for you, and I know the people that are listening to this on audio might not be able to see this, but I have this for free on my platform. It's called the Content Creation Mind Map. I have tons
Okay.
of resources on my website. I call it a mind map. My brain thinks in webs. Okay, so let me just do this here. Um,
Yeah. So I'll definitely leave your links on the website for those who want to go
so
look
I
at it.
think you can either do it this way or you can do it this way. Up to you.
Okay.
But this is going to be the content. So outcome. I always think about this first.
Okay.
I always think about, especially with my clients, I think, what do I want this video to have at the end? Is it going to showcase inspiration, education, value? Like, what's the purpose of this content?
All right.
I think of that. So, like you said, you have so many great ideas. Okay, what's that idea? Put that right here. Put
Okay.
it right in this box. Because then you're going to ask yourself, well, what am I going to have to film? Right? I'm going to have to film Sophia speaking this, Sophia saying this, Sophia this. Maybe there's a soundbite of that. Maybe I need to film somebody putting this soap into their hand, right? So you start to cast the vision.
Okay.
Then you ask yourself, well, what's the mood like? Like, am I going to be doing it very like light? Is it going to be airy? Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be saturated? Like, so I film exactly how I want this to look. And
Okay.
then lastly, like sounds or caption or all of that, like I figure all that out before. Why?
Oh.
Because this is what I want. So why am I gonna just like
Okay.
aimlessly film or aimlessly create when I already know what I want? I know I want the
Okay.
video. Like, for example, the recent video I just posted, right, was about a VIP experience with me. How I filmed it was exactly how I saw it in my head. I want to capture me and the client one-on-one. Me walking in, I already had it. I'm gonna take a video of me walking in. I'm gonna take us filming, us like me showing him the clothes he's gonna wear, because these are all part of the experience, which I want people to
Okay.
feel from watching this video. So ask yourself, what do you want people to feel? What do you want them to see? And then how are you going to execute that vision, right? So you're already going to have the outcome. And so whatever way you decide to do this, maybe this is at the bottom. If you're somebody who thinks the opposite of me, maybe you're thinking first, like, all the shots that you're going to take, right? I also have a $9 checklist on my platform as well, which has the full checklist of what you can do. So maybe you're going to write down all the things that you're going to do, how people are going to feel, and how you're going to record it. And then you come up with the concept after you've done all that. That doesn't work for me. I come up with the end result first, and then I go backwards. Like, my brain thinks very backwards. So I suggest that, because then you're no longer going to either film without a vision, or you're going somewhere without knowing what you're going to do. And then you're going to be upset that you didn't get the shots that you wanted because you didn't plan for it. And I always say, when you plan, I don't even know what I'm saying now. I'm tired. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, I feel like my brain's like, I've like talked out. When you, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So for me, before shoots, before all my clients, I have a checklist. I have my mind map done. I have their strategy created, because I'm going to this shoot intentional what is going to be created and what's going to be executed.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, because for me, at least like right now, because another thing is that I don't feel like I have a lot of value to give. Like, I don't have an expertise on something, so like, because like for me, yeah, I just don't. I feel like I'm not someone that could give advice on something besides my own experience. So for me, one of the things I want to do is kind of create content on like how to be an independent adult, or like the things that you got to learn to become an independent adult. At least like cooking, how to clean properly, like your house, like, and not just like physical stuff, but also like mental stuff, like your room. Like there's that saying where like your room, how your room is, that's how your mind is. So a messy room, it's a messy
room is exactly how my brain is right now, fried, like a tornado hit it. So I feel
you gotta clean it up, yeah. But yeah, like, you know, stuff like that. So because of that, I want to have like that. I want to create that type of content, like, because it's gonna be a learning experience for me, and then sharing it as well. So it's gonna provide some type of value for me.
So what's stopping you from doing that?
The execution, like the actual filming, how to film it. Because there's also that mindset of like it has to be aesthetic, or
are these things that you do on a daily basis? You would be creating content about being like an adult, like cooking, cleaning.
Yeah, those are things I do on a daily basis. So I just have to record it.
I would just press record. Like, don't worry about it being aesthetic. You do this on a daily basis. That's even easier. Like, you don't know. If you were faking it, like, I would understand if you're like, oh, like, I don't cook, I have a chef, but like I'm just gonna like do a little cooking for a video. That's gonna take some effort, right? But you do this on a daily. Grab your phone, literally put it right here, and you're gonna start to cook. This is actually why I landed a pretty big partnership for 6 months with HelloFresh, because I would always go on and film myself cooking, and they were like, oh, can we just send you food? And like, you know, it was a paid collaboration. So I got some. But see, if you don't post, you never know what's gonna come out of it. Just trust that what you have is valuable enough that you don't have the fanciest word, you don't have to talk the longest. Sometimes it's doing one thing is what is actually important and what gives the most amount of value. So that's what I would suggest. Like, really trust that the content you're going to create is valuable to somebody. Maybe it's not valuable to everybody, but you're not meant for everybody, right?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I think I have one more question for you for your expertise. It kind of goes with what we just mentioned, where okay, I have two questions. So this kind of goes with related to what we just said, but creating that high quality content, is there like any like tips or another mindset blocks or mindset shift that we gotta make in order not to get stuck in that high, like, oh, we gotta create like good quality content?
Well, good quality doesn't just mean video quality, right? Good quality can also mean sound, and good quality can also be the words that you speak. So you have to define what quality means to you. You can have the dirtiest camera, but if your sound is solid, like, that's great. Or you can have the worst sound, the worst audio, the worst video, and still have a really great, valuable message. My first thing would be, don't worry so much about having a camera. Like, just shoot with your phone right now. Like, if finances are a thing, focus on what you have around you. I always say everybody has a wall and everybody has a countertop.
Yep.
So and everybody has lights. If I showed you what the rest of my space looked like, you don't have to worry about that. You wouldn't know what's happening on here. But you know that I have a laptop, you know that I have a wall, and I have a light. And it looks really great right now, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it does.
All that
Awesome.
matters. So
That's all that matters for
I
sure.
show the reality of filming content because a lot of people think it has to be perfect and it has to be this and it has to be that. Sometimes it's not even the filming, it's the editing. So I also,
Mm,
I'm plugging in my boot camps in here because I have a filming and an editing boot camp on my page. And I will also be hosting something coming up soon, hopefully. So you guys have to stay connected on my platform. But the editing is just as important as the filming. You'd have the worst
okay.
video, but if you're a good editor, you just change the game. You change the game. So you don't even have to worry about so much about the filming. It's just like, at the end of the
Can you
day, it's
edit?
storytelling. Just you're telling a
Mm.
story.
And I think
Yeah,
that that will be like skills that we also got to learn how to do storytelling, how to edit better, and
correct.
then that's when you do your research, and that's how the full
Or that
practice
you hire someone like me to do it all for you, so you don't have to think about the strategy, what you're
for
saying, what
sure.
you're doing. So
There we go. And then my other question is, all right, for someone who wants to, I think this will be my last question before I ask you the other last two questions. It's for someone who wants to be a content creator and marketing strategist, or just a content creator in general. Like, what advice would you give them? What tips, especially when they're just getting started? Like, what's that foundation that they need to build?
I would say build your personal brand. Tell people who you are. Tell people why
Okay.
you're here, and so tell people who you are. Tell people why you're here, and show people what you can do for them. Um, because at the end of the day, if no one knows who you are, and this is to any business owner, if nobody knows who you are, if nobody knows how you can help them, and if nobody knows what you actually do, they will not know how to hire you. You may be like, oh yeah, well, people know my address, or people have seen one or two videos, they have a photo of me, but people need to see things at least 7 times in order to buy from them. It's psychological. So
Okay.
you need to show up on your page, start building your personal brand beyond what you have to offer and what you charge for. Build your
All
personal
right.
brand, so they can get to know you, so they can learn to trust you, so they can have that impact of beyond just working and exchanging in a service with you. I think that is going to be the most important. And you're going to notice people are going to work with you based on who you are, not what you
Yes.
have to offer. Tomorrow, you can sell a water bottle, you can sell a t shirt, you can sell toothpaste, you can sell flooring, and people will buy from you because of who you are and who you present and what you showcase on here. So I think that would be my only and one and only tip that's going to make you a lot of money if you leverage it,
Yeah.
because your personal brand is the most important thing here.
All right. Can I ask you a question, and that's more
Of course.
personal that goes with the content that I want to create. So how would you create that personal brand, or would it be like, because let's say it's like adult stuff, so cleaning, cooking, uh, fitness, health, all that stuff, mindset. How would creating that personal brand, would that be doing a lot of like talking videos as well, talking about that, or like experiences about that
So
besides?
this is like a sneak preview of what an intensive with me looks like for an hour.
Okay.
So I'm gonna like go through it quickly, and then if you want to book a call after,
Interesting.
we can. But I would focus on you doing what you do. Like you said, you do this stuff every day. This is your life. This is the content that you're creating. But I would also want you to share why you're even posting that, why you're even creating that. Like, how did that idea come to mind? Because
Okay.
why would that even resonate to somebody? Share about that. So that doesn't necessarily have to be talking head content. You could film yourself doing a bunch of different things and do it as a B-roll and put text on screen. You
Okay.
somebody maybe you're not somebody who wants to look right at the camera, right? Let's say the camera's here, and let's say I'm filming myself talking to the wall and being like, being an adult is difficult, y'all. Like, I can't da, 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 and you're talking and you're putting the text on the screen to the camera. It looks like you're talking to somebody, but you're not. You're just shy. And so you're creating it a different way. It
All
doesn't have to
right.
be so stressful. I think really allowing yourself to share again what the platform is about, the kind of content you're going to be creating, what people can expect, and who you are and why you created this, right? Will give a personal touch of why I want to follow you and of why you resonate more with me than anything else, right?
All right. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think I'm ready to start creating my content this month. Awesome. All right. My last two questions. So the first one is, through this whole journey, I believe it's 3 years that you've been in content.
3 years,
About
yeah.
to be three. All right, awesome. So are these about 3 years? What were those like big moments, small moments, like big wins, logros that you were like, holy crap, I can't believe this happened to me. And if I wouldn't have started this journey, this business, this wouldn't have happened, and I would have missed out. Well, what were those like top three? You have more, share more.
I think there were a few, like honestly, every day I wake up and I'm like, God, thank you. Like, thank you. Because I wouldn't be able to like watch my nieces and nephews grow up, even though they are growing up so fast and I only see them once in a while. Like just spending a Saturday instead of not having to go to work. Like for me, it's all about freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I was also like traveling and didn't I was like I wasn't focused on what I was spending or what I was doing. I was just tapping my card, literally knowing because I could. And it was one of those moments that I was like, okay, this might not be the smartest thing, but I'm like, it feels so good that like I don't have to worry. One of the things that really hit me was when I was on TV. So I did a segment on our news TV here. It's called Breakfast Television, and I never saw myself. I used to watch breakfast television. It was the first thing I turned on in the morning when I
Oh
woke up.
wow.
My mom would also turn on that TV. So I actually got to bring my mom and my brother with me behind the scenes to the television segment in the morning.
Yeah.
And I look back at the photos, I'm like, this is surreal. Like, I can't believe I'm here. You know, this is
Mm-hmm.
what perseverance and this is what building a personal brand of value looks like. And when you show up consistently and when you believe in yourself, that you give people the opportunity to believe in themselves as well. I
Mm-hmm.
was 25. I'm Hispanic. I am a woman of color. I'm young. I came from Colombia. My parents still, you know, they don't have a lot of things, but I'm on TV. It gave other women in the same position the opportunity to believe that that could be them as well and
Yeah.
start pursuing that. Um, Another one would be when I signed my papers to have my pre-construction. It's been a dream of mine to have and to start investing in something, and just finally being able to put down like a hefty check, hefty check, um, and just being like, wow, like I'm an adult in an economy where every like the world and
Mm-hmm.
every realtor is going to be like, you can't afford. My God says everything is possible for me. And so just being able to do that, I was like, okay, wow. And then I'm about to host my fourth event. So this in November. So it's kind of like surreal in between me speaking on, you know, platforms like yours, in between of me speaking at other events and being a guest speaker, now hosting my own events. It's just kind of been that
Wow.
moment of being like, wow, like I'm just being used. And every time it's just kind of like a different industry, a different
Mm-hmm.
approach. One time it's a male dominated industry, another time it's women, another time it's youth. And I'm just like so I'm knowing that although it's hard financially, physically, emotionally, that this is exactly where God wants me to be. And I just want to be, you know, I just want to be used by him. So all these times I'm just like, wow, like these are moments that you kind of look back to and are like, how did I do that? Like, why did God choose me? Why am I here? And so this
Yeah.
is all just part of the pieces that I know there'll be, and I don't mean this in a cocky way or trying to brag, but I know there's gonna be more moments like that where I'm
Yeah.
gonna just be like, like jaw
Yeah.
open, like be quiet, be like, ah. Actually, I can't forget this moment when I got hired by one of this woman I look up to so much on YouTube. She used to live here in Toronto. She now lives in Florida and has a beautiful testimony of what God has done in her life. Her name is Jo. Her platform is Grow with Jo, and I went to Florida to do her content. And I just sat in the morning before driving over to her place, and I was looking at the waves. It was winter as well, so I was looking at the water crash on the beach and the palm trees and the sun, and I just started crying. I was
Oh my
like,
god.
I can't believe this is happening. This is someone I look up to, and now I'm going to be working with her. And so it was just a matter of so much gratitude of what God can do if you just trust him and
Yeah,
you get to serve and the lives you get to change. So I can't wait for more of those moments because I know there's going to be more.
for
um,
sure.
this is just the beginning.
I
Yeah.
was I was just gonna say that this is just the beginning, for sure. And then my last question is, for those who are listening to this and want to start a business, a hobby, a side hustle, whatever it is, a project, whatever it is, but they feel like no se lo merecen, no me lo merezco, that phrase. What advice, what tips, what, like, if there's anything, a pep talk, what would you tell them?
So, and just like for maybe people who don't know what no me lo merezco or me lo merezco means,
I don't deserve
I
it.
don't deserve this, I don't deserve this, or I do deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a matter of deserving,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? Because it's almost like I earned this, like I earned this. I worked hard. Like it's like me running a marathon and being like, here's my trophy. I would say it's a journey. It's not a marathon.
Yeah.
You continue. Like you gotta keep going. You don't just land somewhere and say, I deserve this. Now I'm stopping. No, because you deserve this, you gotta keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's I just my brain went blank to what I was gonna say, but it's not a matter of deserving. I also think you need to just remind yourself of who you are and who God has called you to be. Because when you know that, you know that your whole life was already created for you. God already has a plan and a purpose for you. And so knowing that, it's like, yeah, like of course I'm here. Like I don't I like of course it surprises me being on TV and working with people, and I get really excited, but I'm also like, you know, the God that I serve, you know, the plans that he has for me to prosper me and the plans for my future. I am his royal, like all these things come to my mind and I'm like, yeah, like, so anybody that has ever told you you are not worthy of it and you don't deserve it, they also have a plan for them. And so sometimes, let me tell you this, is people will project their
Yes.
inability to show up for themselves, their inability to succeed, their inability to believe in themselves onto you and tell you that you're not worthy, that you don't deserve it. But it's because that's how they feel about themselves. So
Yeah.
use this ammo to show them what is possible for them. Not to brag it in their face, but sometimes people just need that opportunity for them to see someone that looks like them, walks like them, talks like them, or has been in their vicinity, in their surroundings, to be like, wow, she did it, I can do it too. Wow, I remember when
Yes.
she wasn't going to get there, and now she did. Now because she did it, I can do it too. So your testimony and the reason why you're doing what you're doing isn't just for you, it's also for your generations and it's for the people watching around you. So don't take this lightly, that you do deserve this. You're walking in miracles, you're walking into exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's not because anyone's any more deserving than me. We're just working hard. I
Yeah.
don't I'm more deserving than anybody else on this earth. I would be lying. I just think that I'm working really freaking hard and trusting God with literally all I got. Like I don't got nothing. So God, take it all. And that's, I think, what's gonna end my let on his podcast that as I was listening to today was what's gonna take you average to extraordinary. And it's just one thing. And it's just you doing the things that other people are not willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of maybe what would separate you from, and it's not a matter of deserving. We are so worthy of so much. Like
Yeah.
our worth does not come from, that's another thing I would say, our worth does not come from the things that we have, the
Yeah.
money that we hold, the people we work with. Our worth comes from the one who gave us his worth. Like he called us worthy. And so when you know that your identity is rooted in worth and all of that, I just like, there's no greater feeling. Of course, I get upset when I don't get clients. Of course, I get upset when somebody calls me names. Of course, you know, I get upset when I break up with my exes, you know, like it sucks. It sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think my worth is dependent on the things that I can do here.
Yeah.
It's or I just think it's exactly and rooted into what God has asked me to do. And so I just continue doing that. I continue sharing his goodness. I continue working on myself.
Yeah.
I continue pouring back and doing good things for people, and I continue to try to love and hold grace for myself and others as well. And that's all we can really do.
Oh, that's awesome. I think what you just said is something I had to hear so or listen to. It definitely, I'm pretty sure that this pep talk definitely helped somebody out because definitely helped me out. I want to thank you, Sophia, for being here. I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. I definitely learned so much, and I'm definitely gonna implement a lot of the things that you mentioned here, especially for my social media. So I really hope, I'm pretty sure it's gonna help somebody out as well. For those who want to go see your content, your social media, so want to go book a call, you said you have a coaching program, so if they want to learn more about that, where can they find
So
you?
if you go on my web,
Oh, sorry. You could go. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so my website is www.sofiaaguilar.ca.
Okay.
So when you go on there, you can book a call with me. You can fill out an application. My VIP days are available to anyone around the world. I have online one-on-one intensives, strategies. I do work with corporate as well. So if you're an agency, a company who requires strategy, support, consulting, I also do that as well. But the essence is just serving you. So if you want to get in contact with me, send me a DM. Just send me a message, send me a voice note. I love voice notes. And we'll also be launching my podcast real soon as well. So you can also get some value there. But on my Instagram, you can find anything from my faith to my business to personal life, and just really enjoy like living with me through my stories. I showcase everything that I do on a daily basis. Let's get to know each other, and anything that you guys need. And I mean it, whether it's prayer, whether it's community, whether it's strategy, whether it's content creation, I'm here. And so I'm just so excited for this podcast to launch and this conversation to happen to show you that things are possible. And I'm
Yes.
just another person, to be honest, on this earth that has just blindly and faithfully trusting God with everything, but that has also been through it. Like my life hasn't all been like this the whole time. So if you
Yeah.
get the chance to go on my Instagram, you can also watch the pin post at the top that talks about my journey, and just get to know me. So yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, awesome. And I can't wait to have you back and then coming here and saying, oh, I got $1 million business. Like, I got this. There's all these big
Real
moments.
soon.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. And hopefully it's soon, like next year. Like, I'll be like, hey, Sophia, I made $1 million business. Um, but yeah, thank you again so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'll definitely leave the links before below. And for those who are listening, don't forget to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, comment, share, like, all of that, because that supports the podcast as well. And with that being said, thank you again, Sophia, and thank you everybody who listened, watched, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.